All right, so I figured I might as well give you my short and honest review of my Stark Varg. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go without any script here, so if I keep talking the same stuff over and over again, well, that's what it is. Starting this Stark story, I guess you could say, back in May 22, something like that. I pre-ordered the bike pretty early. I'd say I probably was one of the first in Austria. Was pretty excited, back then there was a lot of hype starting to come around this bike, and I felt intrigued, I was excited for the bike. I thought it could be a change for the sport. Maybe a short overview about myself. I'm 23 years old. I've ridden for 5 years, 6 years, so not that long. I'd say I'm maybe a bit above average for now. Nothing crazy, no particular racing for me. I just enjoy the sport and like to have a good time out with the bike. Before the Stark, I've had, actually I had a few 125s. I had a 254 stroke, I had a 252 stroke, still have a 454 stroke. And I think, I've ridden 85s and 300 two strokes and 350s and stuff, but I've never owned any more than that. So about the Stark, I paid full price for it. Back then that was 13,000 euros. And I took delivery of it in, November or December of 2023. So I've had the bike for quite a bit now. It was cold, obviously it was winter, so didn't get to do a lot of riding. But I had it in the shop and could just look at it because honestly, I think it's one of the prettiest bikes right now. I really enjoyed just looking at it, and I took it for 1 or 2 rides before the end of the season, before it got too cold for me to ride. So then there was the winter break, and then 2024 season started. And I think for the first ride of 2024, the first ride of 2024, I had a pretty nasty crash. So basically what happened is, new bike for me still, like a third ride or something. Didn't even have that much horsepower on at that point in time. I think it was around 45 or maybe 50. But still, fresh season, you get a bit excited. I was battling on racing a bit with my mate. And when we got to, I guess you could call it a rhythm section somehow, we both took off at the same time at a jump. I tried to scrub it a bit. For some reason, I came up short, still don't know why. And by coming up short, I don't know, I just kind of lost my balance, fell back, and whiskey throttled right into the next corner. Took the corner way high, jumped 8, 9, 10 meters in the air, threw the bike away, landed, broke my right fibia, so lower leg completely gone, collarbone and some joint stuff. Bike was also pretty fucked. For one very interesting thing, I broke the front axle on it, which is something I've never done. I've crashed a fair amount of time, as you do in motocross, But I broke the front axle, so that was something new. And I told Stark about it, and they wanted me to send the axle to them to Spain, Barcelona in particular. So I did, and yeah, they said it was some kind of material problem there, and they implemented a new check in the production system so that it doesn't happen again. Which, I mean, I guess is nice. So at least you don't have to worry about that when you order a new one. But since the axle broke, basically what happened is the whole front fork got completely bent. The triple clamps got bent. I mean, it was a pretty nasty wreck, but still. Brake disc got fucked. The brake caliper itself got fucked, or like the pin it's floating on. The subframe was bent. Bunch of other stuff. I don't even know, man. Like a lot of stuff happened back then. And I was pretty devastated because, you know, actually I'm still a student, so not a lot of money there. Actually just got all my money together to buy the bike, so having to invest like another, I don't know how many €1,000 again was kind of a bummer. And I had the choice of replacing the front forks with the original ones, so the standard OEM stuff, or just straight up going for the factory edition. And that's what I did, because I think the original forks run for like 1,600, or I think 1,600 was about the right price. And I got these for around $3,000, tailored to my specifications, as you do with these factory forks. And yeah, so far I'm pretty happy with them. I got these little Motion Pro adapters on it as well to adjust the compression. The setup is not perfect yet. It's still a bit harsh in the top stroke for me, but well, what are you going to do? I guess at this point I'm going to give you a short overview over the bike, what I've done to it so far. I mean, obviously, since I've crashed, I've replaced the triple clamps. The bars were bent, so no point in having the OEM bars. At that point in time, I went for a pro taper. I think it's the Henry Reed something bent. I like the bend. What I don't like is that they don't really have a lot of mounting space on it here. So I would prefer to have the brakes even further inside, but I can't. So I'm trying to go for the Renthal 827, I think. They have like really long straight bar ends, but what they also have is a very short mounting place in the middle, and I don't know if it will fit with the phone mount, and I plan on keeping it. I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. Also, I've replaced the front brake, as the rotor, as well as the caliper. I had a good deal for these factory brake calipers. These are the real deal, the machined ones. Figured might as well, since I need a new one. And yeah, brake disc is a Motomaster. Not the top of the line even, I think. Or, I don't know, maybe it is, I don't know. Yeah, I've replaced the rear master brake cylinder. The reason being that since this is the first generation, I got it with the formula rear brake. And I don't know why mine was such a pain in the ass, but it could like bleed it 1,000 times and do anything, and the pressure point still was really spongy, and yeah, didn't like it. So back then I went and searched for a Brembo counterpart for like this one, but for the left side. For some reason, I don't know if I was just blind or it didn't exist back then, I couldn't find one. So I measured out the dimensions that I needed for this size of rear brake, and I ended up with a clutch cylinder, which works perfectly fine for my application. Might switch to the standard brake caliper at some point. If you order it now, I think you even get the Brembo on your left side as well. But I didn't. So I guess that's the price you pay for being early. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, brakes are different, bars are different, head grips, obviously, since those are fucked. I made my own brake levers. These are forged carbon fiber. I made these kind of because I have small hands. I wanted them to have perfect feel, and they're pretty good for me right now. So if I'm on the bike, oh geez, I don't know if you can even see that right now on the camera, but like I'm pretty happy with it. I would prefer to have them even further inside, but for now that's gonna be okay. Like it's not that bad. I would prefer to have even more of a triangle, you know, for riding, but yeah. The phone, since we're looking at it, I'm pretty surprised it survived my crash. It did without any issues, actually. The only thing, and I'm not sure if it is because I was in the hospital for some time and the bike was just sitting around. Where's the brightness on this? Oh, there you go. Or whatever. For some reason, I think the battery took damage from, I don't know, maybe laying around dead for some time. Could also be the reason. But for any reason, it only displays like 100% for forever, and then it goes straight to dead. So there's that. So yeah, I always need to charge it before I go out riding, just in case. All right, that is in place, okay. So, yeah, graphics, I'm not gonna tell you anything about the graphics. I don't think that's interesting. I can only recommend these Blackbird knobby tape, I guess. Since the Stark is really, really slim, that's a great addition to have because it gives you a lot of traction here on the knees. I did some carbon fiber parts myself, like the levers. I also did the skid blade. What else did I do? Yeah. I did I don't know what's under the transmission, I think. Cover. I wanted to do some more, but I ran out of time. And also, I mean, yeah, you can tell they take quite a beating. So I wasn't really keen on keeping parts around, and I don't know. Also, since the bike was out for like a year, but at that point you could just order them from Pro Carbon or anything, and it's honestly, I mean, yeah, it's fun making these parts, but it takes so much time, dude. Even if you do one-offs like I did here, it just takes so long. And I mean, they're not that expensive. I think the swing arm protectors were like, I don't know, 80 euros or something, so nothing crazy there. Also, I replaced the rear brake cylinder. No surprise there. Also the CNC factory thing. I replaced the brake line since this clutch cylinder uses a different attachment style here. And I think the last update or upgrade, I think, was the preload adjuster from Xtrig, which actually is not the correct model one. I think this is for a YZ450, but I figured I might as well mount it, and I've been using it ever since. Yeah, it's a bit fuzzy to get to it. Sometimes I take off the rear panel here so you can get to it more easily, but since I was impatient and I wanted to get that shit done, that's what I did. The rear shock is still stock. I'm planning on upgrading it to a factory shock at some point. Right now I'm broke, so no real point in doing it. Yeah, that's about it for the bike. I will change the seat cover at some point because I feel like I need something with a bit more grip on it. Yeah. Okay, so much for the bike overview. Now, let's talk about owning it and riding it. I mean, riding it is the best experience on the bike I've ever had, straight out of the box. Insanely good. And I mean, obviously, I'm not that pro rider. I'm just a regular guy. And for me, it was amazing because, you know, the suspension works right out of the box because it's sprung for you right out of the factory. I don't know why they have to be the first manufacturer to do that, but they are. The traction is really great, even with the stock tire, which I will have to replace at some point. Still the first tire. I don't have that many hours on it, actually. And yeah, you can see the tire's kind of fucked by now. I should really replace that. Anyway, so when riding, The traction is great. Personally, for the tracks and style of tracks I have around here, the suspension is a little bit harsh on the top part of the stroke, but you have great bottoming resistance, which is something that really stuck out to me in comparison to like the YZ450. With the factory kit, obviously it's gonna get tailored to you even more, but it's better. But I still feel like the top stroke could be a bit softer, so there's not that much chatter in the upper part of the stroke. So while editing, I just noticed I barely even talked about the riding part. So I just want to give you a quick overview or on some things I missed to talk about. The first one I just want to say is jumping it. Like I already told you, the suspension works great. I mean, it's a factory fork. It works fantastic. The rear shock works pretty well out of the box as well. I already told you that. But like, you are probably aware that the bike is pretty heavy. It has, I don't know, I think 115, 117 kilograms. No idea what that is in pounds. Sorry for the American guys. But it's a pretty heavy bike, right? So you definitely can feel that when you're taking it off the stand or just picking it up because you crashed or you're riding around slow. You can feel it's a very, very heavy bike. But since there is no rotating mass in it, it doesn't have a crankshaft, it doesn't have a flywheel, all these things. It does not have that typical gyro effect that you have on your 450 or 350. I mean, the smaller the cc, the less rotating mass you have, and the smaller the effect, right? But on this, you don't have any. So what that means is that you don't have any momentum fighting your lean angle inputs or whatever you're doing in the air. So when you jump it, it actually feels extremely light and small. Nimble, I think is the right word. So it's just like a 125 when you're jumping it, or even lighter than that. I'd say it reminds me of my mountain bike even. So yeah, there's that. That's the first thing. When you're jumping, also that the fact that you don't have gears is a huge advantage. Like there are scenarios where not having gears is a disadvantage, like leading up to the jump. Of course, yes, you can still modulate the power better with the clutch than you can with just the e-throttle. But when you're in the air, it's of course a huge advantage because you don't have the gears. So that means basically you're in sixth gear all the time. And I can rotate the rear wheel from 0 to, I don't know, 120, 140 kilometers an hour, wherever the engine is maxing out, right? And that creates a huge momentum. So I can, if you're jumping and you feel like you're going to endo the jump, you can just grab a handful of throttle and it will pick the front wheel right back up again, which is crazy if you're not used to it for the first time and you're jumping and you hit the throttle and the thing just picks. So it's quite insane if you're not used to it. So that's obviously a plus because it saves you from a lot of crashes where you would sometimes maybe endo a normal 250, 450, whatever. So that's the point of jumping that I wanted to talk about. Also, what I wanted to talk about was cornering. Out of the box, the suspension works great for traction, like I already said. So I feel like it's really well balanced. You can steer with the rear wheel really well. So when you're, at least here in Austria, the tracks I have, they are not very well maintained at all. They're rarely even prepared in any way. So they are either really, really dry or really, really dusty or really, really muddy. And if you have these loose conditions, sometimes just steering it with the rear wheel, being on that edge of crashing fairly often actually, is going to be faster and easier to do than if you're riding, you know what I'm talking about, basically. But it does that really well, and I feel really comfortable on it with the suspension out of the box already. And with the factory forks, it of course works a bit better. I already talked about the fact that we don't have well-groomed tracks at all. That's why I meant that I would wish for a bit of a softer top stroke on the suspension, because if you're on a track that hasn't been groomed for weeks or months or a whole season at some point, because there are some tracks that are not maintained at all, you really wish your hands would last a bit longer, because obviously the more chattering you get, the more arm pump you get and stuff like that. So that would be nice. Like I said, the bike is heavy, so you can compare to like a 125. You feel that when you're braking, it takes a bit longer, I'd say, to get the motorcycle to slow down. But at the same time, since I already upgraded the brakes a fairly bit, I don't remember what brake pads I'm running right now. They are MotoMaster, but I think they are the top of the line brake pads. They work really great in combination with the disc. And yeah, so that's something I would suggest you invest your money into. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to talk about for the riding part, so back to the video. When it comes to the big elephant in the room, then everybody that keeps asking about it is the battery life. So this is the first generation. There have been some altercations for the second one, but honestly, I'm not too sure if it's that big of a difference for the battery life. When I'm doing long runs and I'm really pushing it, I will probably get about 35 minutes on a fast track in my area. That's, I don't know, man. Like, it's not that much if you think about it, like 35 minutes, like, fuck, what am I gonna do then? But at the same time, for me, and at my pace and at my stamina, if I push the bike for 35 minutes, I'm pretty fucked afterwards. So I'm gonna take a break for like, I don't know, an hour or something. You know, eat something, have a chat with your mates at the pit and stuff like that. So yeah, in that time, if you have power where you are, it's not really a problem, because you know the bike charges from dead to full in like 2 hours tops. So if you come to the pits with like 20% or 15%, something around that, which is where I'm at after 35 minutes, because the bike starts to go into low power mode then. And I take an hour off, so I'm like back at 80%, something right around there. And by then, you know, you're good. You can just go straight out again. If you're doing sections of a track that you're practicing over and over, obviously that's gonna be very much different for the battery life. So I think the furthest I've come with the battery, or the longest actually, was, I don't know, 2 hours, 15 minutes, something. And by that time, you know, the riding day was kind of over. I don't know for how long you guys typically ride, but with my buddy and the type of riding we do and the plans we still have for the rest of the day, usually we're at the track for like, I don't know, 5 hours, something like that, tops. And you know, we like to have a bit of a chat with everyone and maybe have a nice break and watch other riders. You know, watching fast riders is always great. So yeah, for these 5 hours, if you can ride half of it, 2.5 hours, dude, no issue at all. And if you have power at your track, you can ride even longer than that. So I don't know. For me, it's enough. I get that if you're a pro rider, this bike is probably not for you, because if you're doing like 30 plus 3 or 30 plus 2 races at your pace, the battery will probably be dead. So you won't finish the race. Not that good. But for us normal human beings, it's great. It's great, you know. When it comes to owning it, there is no better bike to have, because you don't have to do shit, you know. I changed the gear oil like, well, I don't know, every 30 hours or something. yeah, I have to service the suspension, I have to check the brake fluid, and I have to check for the drivetrain and shit. But other than that, there is no oil filter, there is no air filter, there is no gear oil. I don't have to check valves, I don't have to check, I don't know, piston rings, compression, fuck me. Swap every fucking bearing out, I don't know. So in that aspect, it's brilliant. You just get on it and ride, and you don't have to warm it up. You just get on it and go, which I really enjoy. When it comes to swapping the battery, I'm not too sure where the battery price is at right now, but I think it's somewhere around 3,000 euros. I don't know, I will look it up, and if I'm wrong, I will correct it. So let's say 3,000 euros, right, for the whole battery. You know what it costs to rebuild a 450, or let's say a 250 for that matter, 4-stroke, if you don't do it yourself? Yeah, you're gonna be right around that mark. Obviously you can get it cheaper if you do it yourself, but you still have to pay for the parts and the labor, and I mean, yeah, it takes the time. Anyway, what else can I say? Yeah, you get warranty on the bike. I don't know how it is with Japanese bikes when you walk out of the factory, but I know for a fact that if you own a KTM and you decide to ride out of their floor or their shop floor and you crash in the parking lot, well, that's on you. No warranty there. If anything breaks with your KTM in the first 10 hours, well, too bad, that's on you. So that's pretty nice. Other than that, there is not really a lot of stuff that can break, except maybe the axle, you know. Yeah. I love the bike, man. I wouldn't swap it for anything right now. Obviously, it's nice to have alternatives. I still have the 450. But other than that, it's such a great bike to have. If you haven't ridden one, I highly recommend you chat up your local buddies on the track that have one and have a go at it, because it's just great, you know. There is a lot of things on it, like for factory foot pegs, these are amazing. This chain adjuster is amazing, because I don't know why we keep doing with the fucking having to measure it out. I don't know if you take calipers for that or just do it by hand, and you know, it's messy all the time. And with this, you just have the clicks, you count them, and you're done. It's perfectly symmetrical on both sides. Can't really go wrong with it there. And all those small things add up, you know. For me, it's the perfect bike, like I said. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe you're still around watching the video of me just talking about the bike. But yeah, maybe I'll make a video riding it in the future. I do have a video planned about suspension, working on the suspension. But for now, I think that's it. That's all I have to say. So yeah, take care, guys. Be careful, and see you soon. Bye bye.